Have you ever stopped moving in a game, not because you heard something, but because you didn't? No footsteps, no gunshots, just nothing. And somehow that feels worse, because in that moment, you're not thinking about winning the fight. You're thinking about what happens if you lose. That feeling right there is what games like Marathon are built on. Not action, not chaos, but the constant idea that at any moment, you might already be dead. Most games try to make you feel powerful. They give you control, clear information, fair fights. You know where the danger is coming from, and even when you lose, it usually feels like something you could have avoided. But extraction shooters don't work like that. They take control away from you, and the best ones do it on purpose. In Marathon, you feel it almost immediately. It's not just the enemies, it's not just the players, it's the space itself. There are sounds everywhere, machines humming, distant movement, things you can't fully place, and then sometimes it all just stops. And that silence, it doesn't feel safe at all. It feels wrong, because in that moment you start thinking, did someone see me? Are they just waiting? Or is nobody moving at all? Because nobody wants to give themselves away. Sometimes it feels like the entire map just freezes. All you hear is the ambience from the map. Maybe it's the machines, maybe it's some birds, but you don't hear much, very little. Instead, it could be everybody holding angles, everyone listening, waiting for one person to make a mistake, to shoot, to move, to engage with the AI, because the second that happens, everyone knows where they are. That tension, it just builds and builds the longer nothing happens, until silence becomes the most dangerous thing in the game. And then there's the gear. The risk doesn't start when you find something valuable. It starts the moment you load in. Everything you brought in already matters. Your weapons, your setup, your investment. You're risking all of it before anything even happens.
Chad, this run can go really good or really fucking bad.
And then you find something valuable. Or you win a fight, or you wipe a squad that came in fully geared. Now that's the best feeling, isn't it? And now you're holding not just your own loot, but you're holding theirs too. That's when everything changes. Now, it's not just about surviving. It's about not losing what you shouldn't even have. Every fight becomes a bad idea. Every sound becomes a threat. Or maybe it's a good idea. Even engaging with AI can feel like a mistake, because you don't know who's listening or who's waiting for you to do it. They could be right around the corner. You just don't know. That's where gear fear really comes in. Not just the idea of dying, but the weight of everything you're carrying and how quickly it can disappear. This is something the best extraction shooters understand really well, but they all execute it a little differently. Games like Escape from Tarkov take this idea and push it even further. In some ways, the fear is stronger there, because in Tarkov, getting good gear isn't always easy. Everything you bring in already matters, and when you finally win a fight, when you kill a player, or even a full squad, that's not relief, that's just pressure, because now you have to get out. And extracting in Tarkov, it's a challenge all on its own. Plus, when you got in that gunfight, players know where you are. Players move slower, they listen more. And veterans, when they hear a gunshot, it's almost like they have a dot on their map that they don't even have, I might add. They're like, oh, did you hear those gunshots? That's the second floor in room 264 in dorms. And they're like half across the map at broken. So a lot of the game becomes waiting, holding angles, listening, trying not to be the one who makes the first mistake. Because in Tarkov, one bad decision is all it takes. One shot and it's over. Believe me, I know. I used to make my name One Shot I'm Dead, because so many times I would be walking down the street and I'd hear one shot and my screen went black. Now Hunt Showdown, it goes in a different direction, but it might be the best at creating fear. Everything about that game feels wrong. The environment, the sound design. The atmosphere, it's all working against you. You hear something and you're never completely sure what it is. A player, Was it a monster? Because the zombies, the creatures, they trigger the same kind of audio cues that players do. Footsteps, movement, aggro sounds. There could be chains hanging from the ceiling, and you don't know if that was a player that just ran through that, or was that a monster? There's dogs barking in the background or howling. It is such a creepy game, and that's what makes it so good. So you're constantly second guessing. Is someone pushing you, or is it just the environment? And that uncertainty makes the game genuinely unsettling. But Hunt is missing something important, because gear, well, gear doesn't really matter in the same way as it does in Tarkov or Marathon. If you die, you just can buy another loadout. You can buy another character and go right back in. So while the fear is there in a big way, they've nailed the environment, the ambience, everything. The loss just isn't. And there's where Hunt, I think, has its only downfall. Then there's Arc Raiders, which almost goes in the opposite direction. A lot of what makes the game appealing is also what removes the tension and what really pushes it over to the next level. It leans more into PvE, which makes it more approachable, more forgiving. Even the proximity chat changes things. Instead of every encounter feeling dangerous, you start getting these moments where players just... The map starts to feel less hostile, less unpredictable. And when players hear gunshots, they don't always move towards them. They don't always see it as a threat, because half the time it isn't. That alone removes a huge layer of pressure. But the bigger issue is the loot, because in Arc Raiders, gear doesn't carry the same weight as in Tarkov or Marathon. You can go in with a free kit and still kill fully geared players. Weapons like the Stitcher are strong, easy to get, and always available. They even come with free kits, so you can sometimes come in and still kill the best players. And it didn't cost you anything. So even when you lose, you're not really losing something hard to replace. And when that happens, the fear disappears, because the risk was never that high to begin with. When you look at all these games together, you start to realize something. It's not just about difficulty, it's not just about PvP, and it's not even just about losing your gear. It's about what the game makes you feel before anything even happens. The best extraction shooters don't just create danger, they create hesitation. They make you slow down, question every decision, they make you listen, even when there's nothing there. Because that silence, that moment where nobody is moving, where nobody wants to be the first to make noise, that's where the tension actually lives. That's where gear fear gets stronger and stronger. That's where every decision starts to matter more, and the longer that feeling builds, the more valuable everything you have becomes. And that's why Marathon works so well, not because it's the most punishing or the hardest, but because it understands something a lot of games miss. The goal isn't to make you feel powerful, it's to make you feel unsure. And when you start comparing it to other games, you realize why it stands out. It captures the same kind of fear that Hunt Showdown creates, that constant feeling that something isn't right. That ambience that's on the map is a big part of that. It has the same cutthroat PvP and gear fear that makes Escape from Tarkov so intense, where every decision can cost you everything, but it also avoids the things that push people away. In Tarkov, sometimes it's just over. One shot from somewhere you never even saw. In Hunt, the fear is there, but the loss doesn't hit the same. And in Arc Raiders, the gameplay is fun, but the fear isn't always there. Marathon somehow brings all of these things together really well. At least it does in my opinion. The fear, the tension, the risk, but also the kind of gameplay that makes you want to go back in even after you lose everything. Because when a game can make you stop moving, not because you heard something, but because you didn't, holding everything you've worked for and wondering if someone is already watching you, that's when it works. Because in that moment, the fear is real. If you made it this far in the video, I want to thank you so much, and if you could hit all the buttons, I would really appreciate it. But thanks for listening, and I will be back with another one very soon. Peace out, dudes.